today to have the ambassador, as I call him. In fact, I now know him as the Ambassador of Africa. So good evening, Ambassador. Please say hello to all our listeners around the world and viewers.
Wow, a very good evening to our viewers and our listeners. And thank you very much, Rudy, for the opportunity and a warm welcome. And I must say it is an honor and privilege for me to be invited by you this evening, Rudy, on a series of a chapter from my life and book. It is an honor indeed for me. Thank you very much, Rudy.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And this sort of approach that I developed over the last few weeks, and I'm pleased to say you're the first interviewee or dialogue, actually. It's not interview, it's a dialogue, actually on the continent of Africa. So that's really great. It's really great. And of course, your great book, The Encounter, which I think it's a great title in itself, and I know we're going to talk about the background to that. But first of all, tell us who you are, Ambassador. Who are you?
Rudy, I'm humbled, and I must say I'm grateful to be the first in the continent to be interviewed by you, Rudy, on this important series. I am an African and a child of God who is grateful each and every day for the strength, grace, peace, and joy that I receive from God. Knowing that I'm a child of God, it gives me power and wisdom to live a purposeful life. What do I mean, Rudy? With that, I mean it is important to live a life that is aligned with the purpose of God. Who is our creator, the creator of heavens, earth, and the seas, and all that is beneath it. Understanding that it connects me with the powerful force of God. I grew up in the townships in South Africa, in the area called Durban, during difficult times, and I had a direct experience of the brutal apartheid laws, which then forced me to join the struggle. And later in my life, I was the head of counterintelligence in the new dispensation. And I was appointed the ambassador to Japan in 2017 by the former president, Jacob Zuma. And I was recalled in 2019. And I am now the author of The Encounter, which was launched in October this year. And that was all possible. I must say this, it was all possible because of the guidance that I receive always from God. Now, that is the reason I am grateful this evening, and I'm also grateful to be interviewed by you, Rudy. So in answering your question, I am a child of God and his ambassador. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And that was something I did notice woven through the book, scriptures. And what I was impressed with, which I don't normally see from an African writer, is the fact that the biblical scriptures and saying that, you know, that it's in Africa. You get very few Africans who link the Bible and its stories and its lessons that it's actually in Africa. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, actually, Rudy, it will be impossible. It will be impossible for me to be where I am without God's intervention, without God's divine intervention in my life. So when the word of God says, all that have breath must praise the name of God, from the scripture of the Psalms, now it tells you that all that have breath must acknowledge and give thanks to God. So in the encounter, I have interwoven the scripture, which is the source that gives us spirit, life, and fills us with wisdom. And I also connected with the rich and heritage history of the African people. While in the book also, you have the philosophy that embraces a number of concepts, politically as well as economically. So this is a book by His Excellency Thulani Dlomo, connecting God with my experience, because it was all possible because of his guidance.
Yes, and I could see that again as you move between both the spiritual and physical realms. So moving forwards and backwards, related back to history, heritage, the genealogy of your families, being able to go back so many generations. And of course, there's those unseen pathways. I was really impressed when I read that, given the kind of role that you had out in the world. So still to be able to maintain the golden strand, as we called it, it was very impressive indeed. Really was.
Absolutely. Rudy, allow me to say this one comment. In life, if you want to be successful, in life, if you want to be productive, you must have a connection with the force, which is your creator. So that's the secret that I can share that has kept me alive till this day.
Yes,
thank you.
Indeed, and you've been in some very close scrapes as well, looking through the book.
Absolutely.
Yes, right. So in essence then, what really made you write the book? Because it's quite detailed and you've chronicled as well, almost diary-like at times.
Yes, a very important question, Rudy, and I'm grateful for the fact that you have read the book. Now, what made me write the book, Rudy? Firstly, I refuse to bury my talent.
Okay.
I don't want to bury my talent. That's the first reason that led me to write the book. I don't want to bury my talent. When I leave this earth to meet with my creator, my father, I must be empty.
Yes.
There must be nothing in my hands or in me. Meaning, I must give everything. I must give everything before I leave this earth. Now, which then further explains that writing this book for me, it was precisely to avoid being selfish. I was avoiding to be selfish, to die with knowledge, to die enriched. So that is the key fundamental factor that led me to write the book. So meaning the 45 years, which is rich with wisdom and knowledge of my life, having accumulated so much from the struggle days in exile, back at home with my friends, families, and rising in ranks, becoming the ambassador, I have authored, penned down the book so that I give, I share with the people. So I am pouring out and sharing my experience to many. And that I am certain, Rudy, I am certain that through that, many will benefit. Through me sharing my experience, many will benefit. And as they benefit in the process, as you indicated, they will find the verses, they will find this secret, and they will connect and they will be empowered. Then they will value the power of God in their lives. So that is the most fundamental reason which led me to write the book. But further, to acknowledge something that we don't do, to acknowledge God, and acknowledging my friends, my comrades, my colleagues, my family, and all the agents that God used. Because in life, we become successful, Rudy, because of our friends, brothers, sisters, colleagues, compatriots giving us support to greater heights. But above all, acknowledging God. I felt it was important and crucial that I do that, Mark, because I've grown up from the dusty township of Durban. I grew in ranks. Now, against all odds, because we grew up under a very brutal system, very fascist government. But God's grace in everything kept me and supported me to become the ambassador. Now, I can therefore not leave this earth, not acknowledging you for your role now that you are hosting me for many millions that will now receive the message. So I'm saying it is equally important that in our journey in life, we learn to acknowledge God and the agents that support us. But now also, what made me to write this book, Rudy, was to make it a point that my experience is shared. So it is prudent that I share my life experience with Africa and the world. Now it has dawned in me that I must be a servant. Now, this is what I feel inside in my journey of success. Remember, success is a journey, not a station. We move from glory to glory. So in that process, it was prudent that I penned down this book so that the youth will benefit, so that the youth will not commit the mistakes that I made. So for the youth to navigate without losing direction, we must share our experiences so that they may learn and live wise, filled with wisdom. Hence, I say this book in particular is dedicated to the youth. Now, it is also important, Rudy, that the listeners and the viewers understand that I wrote the book so that I inspire you, Rudy, and many listening to write their own stories. Now, sadly for my continent, for the past 400 years, our history has been written by the adventurists, by the missionaries, by the colonial masters. They have been writing all along about my history. Now, we all know that the purpose behind was to instill inferiority. The purpose behind was to drive the agenda of superiority. Now, I don't want to take you back to 1844-45, Berlin Conference. Now, it became important to me that I write my story so that many will be triggered to write their own stories. But lastly, it became important to me as a messenger of God that I share the message that God delivered to me. Now, when God delivers a message, Rudy, to the prophet, it is not for the prophet, it is for the people. Now, if you keep the message to yourself, when people perish from their sins, without you warning them, without you communicating, extending what God has shared with you, their blood will be in your hands. So this is one of the most important elements from all of them for me to pen down the encounter. An amazing experience to hear the voice of God and hear the message of God and communicate the message to the people. So this is my path, the encounter, and this is my path alone. So it is for that reason that I've penned down the encounter. And thank you very much for asking that question, Rudy.
Yeah, and Ambassador, related to that then, so what was the number one lesson that you learned about yourself that you would communicate to those who aspire to serve and lead in the future based on many of the elements that are in your book?
Well, Rudy, it is my desire. It is my desire that people will listen. Yeah. Because now this is a book not only coming from my own experience and from my own interest or desires, but it is a book that also has the element and the breath of God.
Yes.
It has the breath of God. Now, it may take centuries or many years, but one thing that will please me is that the reader connects with the main message. Absolutely. Which is the message that everyone will agree with me that it is the message that talks about the crisis that we are facing now, which points to the end of days. So it is my desire, Rudy, that people get to grasp and understand and not undermine and underestimate the author, but understand the message, which is very key and important to me. Now, those who also have been enriched in life, to them, they must be inspired to write down and share their knowledge. Yeah. Now, to many young people in particular, I want them to learn the responsibility of leadership in their early days, the responsibility of adherence and listening to their elders, to their parents, to their neighbors, and most importantly, to the word of God, who guides the steps of the righteous man. So that is the desire, Rudy, I have for the reader and for the listeners, that grab a copy of a book that is not only man-inspired, but it is filled with the spirit and the breath of God's message.
Yes, thank you for that. So you put emphasis on education as a key to Africa's development. Can you elaborate on that? Because of course we've heard that for generations now. So within this world that we're in now, in the course we're in a COVID post-pandemic world as well, era, I should say. So.
Rudy, my dear brother, I put emphasis on education. Indeed. I'm saying an African child must know that education is the key tool that will help create a bright future and a prosperous one.
Yeah.
I am saying to an African child, your background and the circumstances you are currently experiencing in the continent will only be changed by education. Now, this is a tool that changes not only develop you, but it changes the village where you come from, because you then put your experience, which then adds in building a nation. Now, for one to progress, it is important that we stress that development in life will only come when our youth understand the importance of education. When you don't have education, certainly you are deprived, disempowered of valuable information and wisdom. Now, I am saying to the continent, if we emphasize on this subject, if we revive our education, if we re-establish education as a subject that empowers our people, then certainly we will produce leaders for our continent. And I will be emphasizing on this important subject, Rudy, for the rest of my life. I am not going to lose strength or worry, because it is important and it is fundamental. So I am not going to lose passion in articulating the fact that education is the key that will change the lives of our African youth. So I am saying, equally, let us change the curriculum. You know, we have sadly a curriculum that has been passed from generations to generations. A curriculum that still adds no value in changing and shaping this continent. And sadly, our leaders have not done much. You ask me, this question has been carrying on for many years.
Yeah.
Indeed, absolutely. It has not been prioritized. And I don't want to give you statistics and failures concerning the new dispensation in the continent, which attributes to lack of education. So I am saying it is important that we change our curriculum. It must be more based on STEM subject. It must be more based, Rudy, in science, technology, engineering, as well as mathematics, because we want critical thinking now. We want to build our infrastructure. We want to empower our people to be self-reliant. You cannot be self-reliant if you are not educated. This is the main point. I emphasize the importance of education, and I'm so passionate about it. So I'm saying, let us grow and develop Africa putting education at the center so that the young generation will be a generation of scientists, a generation of artisans, a generation of engineers. Now, the results that will come with that paradigm shift, with that thinking, there will be no need to take our raw materials to the first world countries. Now, Rudy and many who are abroad, I know there is so much experience that you guys possess, will then work in building a continent that is self-reliant. So that is why I am challenging academics. I am challenging the youth to be conscious of the fact that education is key in building and advancing Africa. So, meaning we must not think at any given point of destroying academic institutions. We must not think even in our sleep that we destroy libraries. I will tell you one day when we have a story that the Greek powers knew before the birth of Christ that when they invade Egypt, they must not destroy libraries. They must not destroy any institution of learning.
Of course.
Because why? They knew the power and the richness of heritage and culture which our African elders possessed. So I'm saying to the listeners and the viewers, education must be at the center in everything that we plan and in everything that we want to do for the future of this bright continent.
And so important, especially as we talk about the 21st century skills of collaboration, communication, creativity. You mentioned critical thinking, but also there's something about being system builders and being able to reach consensus, agree leadership and management actions, and that translate into workable plans for implementation. So there's a challenge all the time around implementation. So you can have academics are important. They give us clarity and definition. But at the end of the day, we need people who can deliver and and get the projects over the line and really improve people's lives with their skill and knowledge. It's so important. And as you said,
important.
Starts with education.
Very important. Absolutely, I agree with you. Very important. Your point in particular that at the end of it all, that will improve people's lives.
Yeah.
That is very important. So meaning academics have a bigger role to play.
Yeah.
The executive, the political leadership has a responsibility. Leaders in local spheres, in provincial spheres, in national spheres, they have a role as well to play. The implementation part of it and the synergy in all these stakeholders is very, very crucial and critical. And I agree with you.
And it comes down to the neighborhood. The way you live on this globe, we all live in a neighborhood. That's the starting point.
Now you see what you're now touching on, Rudy. It then reminds me the African education system that was abolished by the colonial masters. It was embracing the families.
That's right. The village.
Communities, as well as regions.
Yes.
Now, it all starts from that setup.
Yeah.
Now, this is why I am saying education helps one to empower and change your surroundings,
Yeah.
which then helps to build a better community and a better nation. So I strongly agree with your point, Rudy.
Thank you about that. So tell us about your Japan experience. I'm very interested in you going to the other side of the world, so to be. And the thing that I thought of you as a samurai now. And the
Did you
reason
see
being,
the pictures in the book? You see the pictures on the book?
I saw the picture. But more importantly, why I saw you as a samurai, because you would know there's an old ancient Japanese saying that is that to be a good samurai, you must have a bit of black blood.
Yes.
So that's why I call you the samurai ambassador. See?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you're going completely from one culture into another culture, but that same culture is drawn from the African culture, but many generations before.
That's very profound, Rudy. And you remind me what I used to communicate with Japanese business community, as well as Japanese senior officials in government. As much as I will come to the experience part of it, but I always reminded them that their rich culture heritage comes a long way.
Yeah.
And the root of it all is Africa.
Of course.
And then I will articulate to them, precisely, and without any objections from them.
That's right.
And what pains me is that respect which Japanese people, the humbleness which Japanese people are keeping, it is the very same culture that the African people possessed all along.
Yeah.
So that used to pain me all the time as I was looking and observing this prosperous nation, this advancing nation. Now, my experience in Japan, Rudy, was exciting. It was an eye-opener. It was unexpectedly. It was something that I was not expecting. It enlightened me, I must say, because there is now that disconnection in as far as our African culture is concerned. So now to be in Japan, it was an eye-opener. Now, this is a country, Rudy, where the rate of unemployment is 2.29%.
Yeah.
The rate of unemployment. That was in 2019. Now, if I bring you back home, sadly, in 2019, our rate of unemployment was at 28%. Now, this is a country that is rated third economic power in the world. Now, this is a country that is rated amongst the best countries with the transport system. They have a best transport system in the world. Now, looking at the statistics concerning the crime rate in Japan, it is at 0.6%.
Yeah.
Now, you then ask yourself, where are you? What is happening? Is this all real? am I dreaming? Now, that is Japan experience. Now, literacy rate in Japan, you're talking of 99%. Now, you connect that with this advancement, with this success, with the growth in GDP, you then have an understanding that they have a skilled labor force.
Yeah.
Now, Japan's population is at 126 million
Mhm.
people. 126 million people, and you have 0.6 unemployment rate. What does that tell you? There is a lot to draw and to learn and to emulate, if only and only if you want to be the best. If you want to take Africa, if you want to transform Africa, then that is a country one cannot overlook or lose sight of their achievements. Now,
And again, Ambassador, I've heard that being said for nearly 40 years about using the Japanese model.
Now, what is the secret? Yes, indeed. I mean, if you look back where they come from, let me take you back to 1945, during the Second World War. Japan was in ruins.
Yeah.
Japan was in ashes. Now, the natural disasters, earthquakes, typhoons, and everything. But look where they were in 1970, in 1980, in 1990. Where are they now? Yeah. Now, it is continuing. There is that continuous persistence in their economic growth and achievement. Now, one thing remarkable and important that I want to share with you and the listeners as well as the viewers is the fact that they invest in the youth. They have a strategic foresight that for the future of Japan to be successful, we must take care of the little ones first.
Yeah.
Something that you and I don't do of late.
Yeah.
We have tend to be selfish, greedy, that we don't want to invest in the youth. Yeah. We don't want to empower women. We don't want to bring academics at the center. Now, where are we taking this continent? Now, I am saying, read the book and be inspired by the policies and the direction that Japan is taking and that Japan is pursuing. Now, let me tell you something very interesting, Rudy, and the viewers at home and the listeners in England. And I am grateful to have this platform. I am grateful to have a platform where even listeners in England are having an opportunity to know about the encounter. Mark, I'm very grateful. And I want to extend my gratitude to all your viewers and your listeners. Now, I am saying we must learn and be wise if we want to take this continent to greater heights. But read the book and understand the secret of Japan policies and plans. As now, I wanted to say last one, the secret, what amazed me in one of the big forums that I attended in Japan. It was a conference, business conference. At the center of their planning, guess what? There is Africa.
Interesting.
There is Africa. I will leave it there. I will leave it there for the viewers and listeners to have an introspection of the meaning of that. And remember, I'm giving you a clue. There are no mineral resources in Japan. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry to take long. It always amazes me when I think of that amazing experience.
Yes, I can imagine. So tell us about your recall. I was trying to read between the lines, so I thought I'd ask you that question.
Yeah, you see now, you are taking me from high and you are pushing me down. Rudy, that was a painful experience.
Yes.
That was a painful experience for Ambassador Dlomo to be recalled from Japan when my eyes were still fixed in grasping and understanding what was happening in that beautiful country, the land of the rising sun. And I had to be recalled back to South Africa. It was a painful experience that I have coined the wilderness.
It humbled you.
It humbled me. I was grounded.
Yes.
And I was at a lowest point. And that's the point.
Exactly.
Where every listener must prepare for.
Yes.
And that's the point we all in life must experience.
Mm-hmm.
And who wants to be in that point? No one. Who wants to be in the desert? No one. But what are the benefits of being in that point? The lowest point. Now, when you are in that point, you are refined. You are molded. When you are in that point, you are purified as the precious gold. When you are in that point, you are tested. Your faith is tested.
Time for reflection.
Yes. And when you come out from that point, you are filled with humility, respect, and understanding of your next step. Now, don't take that point as a point of failure.
Yes.
That is the reason I'm sharing my experience, my Japan experience, that you can move from being on top to the lowest point, from being an excellency to be nobody. But because of humility and being on that point, you will come out there an author of a book that you never thought you would write. I am saying to the viewers and the listeners, value the lowest point. Value and understand and take note of that point. Blame no one. Blame no one. For that is the best moment of your life when God himself carries you and he walks with you. And you must know, be equipped with the word of God. Read the book, be enriched, and understand the importance of being tested, the importance of valuing trials, tribulations, understanding the current crisis of COVID-19, understanding economic crisis, understanding unemployment that engulfs Africa, understanding inequality, understanding poverty. You then learn that you have a responsibility. Hence, I am a servant and I am the ambassador of the good news, that we learn from the low point. Thank you.
Thank you. And just finally, Ambassador, as we're coming to the end of the program, what are your thoughts on the 21st century reality of large-scale diaspora involvement on the continent in general, and South Africa in particular? And I say that having a Caribbean background and knowing the challenges that, as it relates to diaspora involvement across the Caribbean, and some of the issues are still the same as they were a generation or two ago when some of the new structures were set up. So I'd be interested in your viewpoint around some of the structures, strategic instruments and things that are actually needed to make this a reality.
A very, very good question, and very important question, I must say, Rudy. My thoughts on the 21st century reality of large-scale diaspora involvement on the continent. Now, firstly, it is important for me that I indicate to you, Rudy, that African leaders must firstly create favorable economic, political, and social conditions for those who want to return home, for the diaspora. So you are asking a very important question, but I am saying the African leadership must understand that we need our African brothers and sisters to come back and plow back in building this beautiful continent. But we need to consider and to understand that it is important that we create favorable conditions, economically and politically, as well as socially. Now, in achieving that task, African leaders will then be opening doors that will help stabilize, bring stability, and that process will generate knowledge that will take our continent to the next step. If I may take you back, Rudy, it was only because of the role of the African diaspora that contributed to the formation of the Organization of African Unity. If you read my book, you will know that I am taking you back. Why? Because it is important as African people that we know our past. Understanding our past, we must also understand where we are today. It is that compass, that knowledge that will take us to the future. Mm-hmm. Now, I am saying the formation of the Organization of African Union, which is now called the African Union, was possible because of the African diaspora. Okay. Again, it will take the African diaspora uniting with the people of this continent in developing the African. Now, I'm saying for Africa to advance in reaching its full potential, because there is that potential that we have, but for us to reach that full potential, yes, the African diaspora will need to direct and play a role that will contribute all the skills and direct them to advance and develop the continent. This is based on the fact that African immigrants are well educated, and well educated, I must repeat that. You are an example of that, Rudy, and many abroad. Now, I am saying, in answering your question, we need you back home. Now, in South Africa in particular, through my book, I have had an opportunity to communicate with my colleagues and friends. Thulani Tango is one of my old friends based in London. Pili is one of them. Lungi, my sister, she's also based in London. And many, I am saying, this is the time that you come back home and bring this continent to greater heights. Let's take this continent to greater heights. So we need the African diaspora. Now, I am saying for us to build factories and industries, for us to process our own raw materials, we need your skills, Rudy. We need you guys back home. But our leaders and our executive must not be threatened by your skills, because you have accumulated so much, which we don't have in the continent. But those divisions are very petty in dividing us. We should shift them away and focus in building this beautiful continent. Now, there is a big role, a bigger role for the African diaspora. Africa has the biggest emerging markets in the world. And we have the youngest population in the world.
Yes, that's right.
Now, why are we not using and capitalizing and exploiting in that fact? So let us have a strategic foresight.
Yes.
I am calling in my book, academics, African diaspora, that let us join hands and build the future of our kids and the next generation.
Yeah.
We need you. We need the African diaspora. And thank you for bringing such a very important question. And it is that knowledge from the African diaspora that will once more ignite and grow the spark that will take this continent into greater heights. I hope I tried, though you were asking difficult questions, I hope I tried my best to answer you, Rudy.
I think you were excellent, and we're definitely going to do part 2 in the new year.
Rudy, it's been a great honor and a privilege to be hosted by you.
Thank
and
you.
To the listeners and the viewers, I'm grateful, and I am extending my gratitude to say, catch up with us once more in 2021. Rudy is promising to host me again, and let us spread the gospel.
Absolutely.
Of the encounter, and grab a copy of the encounter.
Yeah,
and
get the book, everybody. Get the book, everybody. It's a great book, The Encounter, and that was The Ambassador. And thank you very much, and good evening and good night. Last word from the Ambassador.
I'm speechless, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I give all the praise to God, for this opportunity was possible because of him, because he guides me and he directs me. Let us join hands, let us work together in making Africa and the world a better place for humanity. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for all of us, for all our futures.
Thank
you very much, and good night, everybody.
Oh, thank you so much.